Christopher Le Brun has been a celebrated British painter, printmaker and sculptor since the early 1980s. He has also been an instrumental public figure in his role since 2011 as the president of the Royal Academy of Arts in London. His practice of the past 2 years has focused on a series of abstractions. His glowing and scintillating surfaces, containing passages both luminous and numinous, or what he describes as primary responses to the act of painting rather than commentaries on life or homage to previous artists. Hello and welcome to this edition of Icon. This is Shanghai, and today I'll be talking to painter Christopher Le Brun, who's going to have his first exhibition in China, in Shanghai, in one of the galleries over here. Now, the name of the exhibition is called Diptychs. What does it mean? Why did he choose this name? Now, at the same time, he's not just an artist, he's also the president of the Royal Academy of Art. So how does he manage to do this? To be an administrator, to be an artist, all at the same time? Let's talk to Christopher Le Brun. This is Icon. Welcome to Shanghai.
Thank you.
Welcome to Icon. First time here?
First time in Shanghai, yes.
First exhibition?
Yes. Yes.
It's called Diptychs.
Diptychs, exactly.
What does it mean?
A diptych is a double painting. So you see the two paintings alongside each other. Diptych is a classic format for painting. Typically in the Renaissance or even in the medieval time, a diptych was something which opened up. So you'd have a sacred image in the center, and the wings of the panel would close. So you could keep a secret within it. But I'm using the format for a different reason.
What is the different reason then?
The different reason is that I'm interested in the possibility of having two different thoughts at the same time. Because I think there are aspects of modern life where we learn to live very complicated lives and have this thought and this thought and this thought and this relationship all together, and somehow the mind is capable of combining them. So I think it's a typical experience of modernity that we live even with contradictions. So normally you would expect an artist to make a complete composition to resolve the problem for you, but actually I think the truth is often of living with contradictions simultaneously. So I find it really interesting and stimulating to my mind to see these different pictures together.
So it's not, the canvas is not big enough for your thoughts on canvas?
Well, that's very generous of you to say I have these ambitions, but actually it's more to do with trying to come to the truth of what I'm thinking. Because too often one is tempted to say, do I have one solution? Do I have one solution for this thought or for my feelings? And for me, I think the truth is closer to no, I don't have one solution, but I know there are different ways of looking at this. I think we're creatures of changing moods and changing thoughts. So these are the sort of ideas behind the notion of the diptych.
This is more about, not about the painting itself, it's more about how you see painting as a way to seek solution to the problems you find in life, or what?
I think one often thinks about painting as if the artist was taking a mental photograph of an idea and then carrying out the painting, right? So it's a piece of craft work. You have an idea, you copy it onto the painting, and there it's complete. I think very differently. I think painting is a way of thinking. It's a way of thinking about the world. So when I start painting, I don't necessarily have a plan, I just start. So you're watching my thoughts happen. What do I feel? So I'm trying to get to something which isn't an opinion, it's not a view, it's a sort of feeling. It has something authentic about it. So this is quite a complicated thing. So I use my paintings to think with.
You use your paintings to think with about the world we live in.
About the world, about what things look like, about nature. Could be anything at all. And painting is a very beautiful medium for thinking, for remembering, for speculating, for imagining. As you can tell, I'm a big advocate for painting.
So inspiration could come from anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, yeah. But it's also, inspiration is, again, another notion is that the artist is walking in the world all the time and suddenly has an idea, and that's inspiration. But actually, it's more like fishing. You have to be fishing, you have to be waiting, keep the fly on the water, and something may take it at one moment. You have to be ready for the moment when you feel conviction or certainty. So it's more like painting, you're waiting for the moment to happen, and then you take it.
Well, in that case, I can never be a painter, basically.
Don't even try. Don't even try.
So what do you do? I mean, what is the creation process like? You sit in front of a canvas and wait and think, and then it'll just come out?
No, it's a doing thing. You see, I'm using my hands all the time.
Yeah.
Painting is about making and thinking. So in the studio, there are two places to be in the studio. One is painting, standing in front of the canvas, painting. That's the joyful bit. The bad bit is sitting in the chair, thinking about the painting. So then you have these thoughts. Who am I? What am I doing? Why am I here? All these sort of thoughts. And the answer to those things is in the making. Because in the making, then it's a different sort of truth. Do you see? Because art isn't an intellectual truth. It's truth of the body, of our feelings, our emotions, our memories, ourselves.
But once you also mentioned the way that you paint, it's almost like you're talking to canvas. This is like a questioning form of yourself. You're asking a question.
It's asking a question. That's the difficult bit. It's listening. It's listening, actually. It's waiting and watching. Because the materials are very beautiful. Colour, line. It's, what do I think about this? What do I see? What does it make me think of? So it's being prepared. It's being like a sort of hunter. And what does the hunter do? The hunter watches very carefully, follows the tracks, follows the trails. That is the reality of my life in the studio. And sometimes this colour makes me think of this colour, this line makes me think of this line, this size makes me think of this size. So I'm putting myself not in the position of pushing, but waiting. So if you take a child, if you think, who are the children who have a talent for art? It's often the child that's very sensitive to nature, the child that notices things, they're very acute about how things look, and that's often a lead into art, because they're not pushing, they're not saying, I have something to say. It's not like that. It's, I notice things, or I feel things that other people don't notice, or it's a sensibility, a particular sensibility. I find this interesting, how children react, because children react before they know anything.
As all natural state.
Yes, as a natural, they're interested in climbing, or running, or singing, or dancing, or painting and drawing. So you see these behaviours very early, which are very deep. And again, that's a good sign of truth. That may be the truth of their character. I mean, I have 3 children. One little boy was climbing trees and running. The other little boy is reading. And my daughter, well, daughters are always a mystery, but anyway. So the character is there very early. But it's important, because people, I think, what do people want artists to be? What's the use of an artist in society? I think people want us to tell the truth. It doesn't mean, it's not words, it's not slogans, it's not politics, it's the truth of their feelings. The way I walk down the road, I don't think about it, I just do it. That's me. It's that sort of truth, and because painting is physical, maybe it's a guarantee of truth. I'm not trying to persuade you. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. But the thing is interesting, I think, for you. I think you'll find it interesting.
You're having the exhibition here in Shanghai, first time in Shanghai.
Mm.
So when the art lovers, when they walk into the studio, do you have any expectations at all from the audience here?
Well, I want them to love it. I want them to find the paintings beautiful. I want them to see the colour, to be maybe enchanted a little bit. Is it possible to say that word? And to come across a space where there's room to think and imagine. But I'm not telling them anything. I'm just providing the occasion, as it were, for thinking or...
他是用他的色彩，用他的然后最主要的是用他的生命的体悟在书写，所以我感动。
I like the way the painter has put some of the thought from this in here. So you can say, oh, daytime, nighttime, or happy, unhappy.
表现得很优雅，但是很有节制。
It's kind of spontaneous work, and I like it very much.
Obviously, one side is much more calm and minimal. The other side's busy, painterly, and colourful. So the contrast brings out elements of both.
艺术家他迸发出来的一些音乐性和一些情绪感，还有说一些非常敏感的一些细腻的细节，非常打动我。
To the early days, I mean, it's not easy in any country and any culture to be a painter. To start with, even not easy to make a living to be a painter.
Well, luckily, when you're very small, you don't think about it, so you're already...
you got supported by the parents, by the family.
Well, yes, but you're already on the journey, you see. You're already on the journey. You start the journey when you're 4, when you're 5, when you're 6, when you're... By the time you get to 16, 17, 18, you're already on the journey.
It's too late to turn back.
maybe too late to turn back, but it's what we call a vocation. That something is calling you to be a painter.
What about yourself? Because when you were young and then you had to teach to make a living and then paint at the same time.
Yes, I did many things to make a living. The art world then was much smaller. So in a way it was a little bit more, possibly even more difficult to make a living. But there were fewer artists. And the tradition is unbroken. My teacher was taught by a famous artist, and so on, all the way back through. It's an unbroken line. That's very important. Mm. So, but of course, it's never simple. Most artists think they're never going to sell another painting. It's a world of anxiety. This is why none of my children are artists.
They could be a parkour runner or a writer, right?
But of course, it's wonderful because your life is driven by imagination. And that's not exclusive to artists. Everybody's life is driven by imagination. But in this case, it's very clear. There's a lucid element to art that I like.
Yeah, this is all about passion, and no matter how difficult it was, it's always there for you.
You need it. You need it to keep going, particularly for this reason. If you see art, this often happens in universities and art schools. The thing nobody likes about your work is the thing that's most like you.
Say it again.
Everybody likes what they recognize. Yeah? So if you make a painting, they will say, oh, this looks like this, this looks like that. I recognize it. They like that bit. But when they see the bit that's you, they don't like it because they've never seen it before. But that's your contribution. And you need strength to hold on to that and keep working with it. Because most art is understood by conventions. But the new temperament of the younger artist, the new artist, has never been seen before. It's a new thing in the world. And that's important. It combines with conventions, of course. But that's the contribution. That's how art develops. It doesn't develop because of a clever invention. That's superficial. It develops because the new temperament comes into the world. And the new temperament is associated with.
So that also how we explain your changes, if you see any changes in your own art, say from the early works of more figurative paintings to now more maybe abstract paintings. I mean, did you plan these changes or
no,
it just happened?
It's impossible to plan. It's impossible to plan.
Just happened.
Well, let's put it this way. If you're painting, you need to concentrate, you need to be in focus and looking at this thing, yeah? But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, what does the painting look like? I'm too close to see it, but I'm thinking, what does the painting look like? That's one way of thinking. In the back of your mind also is your entire life. Very, very far back, or underneath, or somewhere, but not in focus. I think we all do this. We're here, but we're thinking a little bit of the big context of what we want to do. So this is very difficult to plan, because you need to respond to your feelings and where the journey leads you. That's the exciting part. But if you look down into my work, I think it has a consistency. I don't know what it is, but there's something there which other people might recognize.
More figurative or more like lines and color blocks, and
well,
it's all the same?
I don't think it's all the same. I think it's a bit like the tide. There's the sea, right? But sometimes the tide comes in, sometimes the tide goes out, sometimes it's very clear, sometimes it's vague, it just moves. So the nature of painting is complicated. It doesn't need to be just this. It needs to be lots of things. And I think the way maybe to answer your question is I try to stay open. I try to stay mentally open to what happens. These paintings are a good example, because I'm making these paintings because I don't understand them. They intrigue me. What am I doing here with two different things? But it feels interesting. I can feel something pulling me towards it. But I don't know what it is. So that's what just draws on all the time.
So this is, again, you were listening, and then this is the question you're asking yourself, you're asking the world.
Yeah, there's something happening. I don't know what it is. That's interesting. As soon as I know what it is, I tend to lose interest. I'm more interested in it being mysterious or enigmatic than understood.
So this is called mind.
Yes.
So I mean, I'm an outsider, but if you call it mind, then this is a clear mind. This is not so clear. I don't know.
Typical. Yes. As you know, that's what it's like. That's what it's like. Sometimes it's clear, sometimes it's not. Or you could say, sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's busy. Just take a typical 24 hours. We spend maybe a third of the time asleep. So what's happening to the mind? Well, the mind is dreaming. What does that mean? We don't know, but it has some purpose. So we have the dreaming mind, we have the conscious mind, we have the mind in the middle, which is the way we spend most of our lives. So the reality of our perception and our feelings is this complicated world, conscious, unconscious, looking forward, looking back, feeling sad, feeling happy, but all the time reacting.
Do you sometimes find it necessary to explain, say, your understanding to the audience to make the communication process smoother?
Well, I hope what I'm saying now is helpful. So sometimes I think it is helpful, but when I'm not here, the paintings have to...
That is true, though.
...stand for themselves. You are watching Icon on CGTN.
Besides, you're a painter, you're also the president of the Royal Academy of Art.
Yes, yes.
These are two totally different roles, I would say, one administrative, one artistic.
Well, this is why I'm doing these diptychs, you see. I lead these double lives all the time.
You've been doing it for 8 years.
For 8 years, exactly.
How challenging was it?
It's very challenging. I'm working to my limit all the time, but it's a completely fascinating thing to do, and it uses a part of my brain that I don't use in the studio, because I need to be a diplomat as the president. I need to be quite a politician, making everybody happy, which is impossible, but I try. But at the same time, I need to analyze situations. So I need to use the analytical side of my brain. And I do 3 days in a suit and tie, trying to look presidential. And then I'm in the studio for the next 3 days. And when I'm in the studio, I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired with the analytical thinking. The other side of feeling, painting, moving, making comes in. So I think it's been good for me, somehow, as an artist, to have these two roles.
Was it not distracting? I mean, it's to be a president, to be a painter, they're like two totally different personalities.
Yeah, but there's something very beautiful there, too. Imagine you have an organization that's very old, very distinguished, and imagine you could make the organization think like an artist. Imagine. This is a beautiful idea. So when it was set up 250 years ago, with a few painters going to see the king, saying we need to have an academy, and he supported it, it was a beautiful idea. They put the idea of art and architecture right into the middle of the establishment. It's a wonderful idea. And the king supported them for about 15 years before he ran out of money. He had other things to do.
The king ran out of money.
The king ran out of money, of course. And then we were completely independent ever since. So we received no money from the government, no interference. We're completely free, which is wonderful but also difficult, because we need to raise all the funds ourselves. But
part of your duty.
Part of my duty. Part of my duty. I will be asking you for a contribution later.
Yeah, I would.
After
20 quid, as I promised.
Yeah, I think you can do better. I think you can do better than that. But anyway, it's a beginning. But it's this idea of an organisation run by artists and led by artists, I think, is a really fascinating thing. And it's certainly kept my interest. And my fellow academicians have tolerated me. Every year I must be re-elected in a secret ballot.
We were just talking about this, the election process.
Yes.
It were meant to be a secret, just like the Oscars. You didn't know the final candidate who is going to take over your responsibility until the last minute.
Completely, yes. I mean, shall I describe the scene to you? What happens? We have a room in the Academy in Burlington House called the General Assembly Room. It's not much bigger than the gallery, and into this room go the academicians. It's normally about 80 people. They shut the door, and then we vote. And it's a secret ballot, and we vote, and we vote, and we vote, until there's just 2 people left. Then they vote against each other, and then one person becomes the president. Not quite yet, though. So what will happen on December the 10th? I'm in my medal. I have the result. I stand up, I take my medal off, I put it on the new president. Then they go and wait in a room. They call the Queen.
They call the Queen?
They call the Queen. And the Queen has to say yes. She always says yes. And then they're the president. Then they go out and meet all the staff. But for me, that secret ballot happens every year. Not the full election, but this, just to make sure they're happy with me.
What about you personally? What do you think are the moment you're most proud of to be the president during the past 8 years?
Well, I think clearly the moment when we opened our new building. We made the Academy twice as big. We took a new building. We converted it as a very beautiful master plan development by David Chipperfield. So probably my proudest moment was when I greeted the Queen and she opened the building.
Oh, wow.
And I took a big risk. So I'm standing on the stage, Her Majesty is here, and I said, and the building was very cold, really cold. And I said to the audience, I said, the more observant amongst you may have noticed that we haven't finished the building. But it was the truth. We hadn't finished. We had just 1 day for the Queen to come.
Yeah.
You can't finish a 10-year building project on that day.
Right.
And luckily everybody laughed, so that was okay. was okay. But it's impossible. The main thing was, the spirit was, we were opening the building on the 250th anniversary. And with new galleries, beautiful new lecture space, and we raised all the money ourselves. So that was a great moment.
And with that under your belt, are you happy to leave the presidency to be back to be an artist?
Yeah. For the first time for years, I've got a diary. It's like a field of snow. There's nothing in it. It's wonderful. Nothing in it except the studio and painting.
So, on the other hand, do you think being the president in the past 8 years has any influence on you as an artist?
I think so. I think it gave me some confidence somehow. I mean, I have to speak in public a lot now. I think I have to make decisions. I think all of that is good for me as an artist. Have more clarity about my decisions.
Has it actually influenced your art at all?
It's made it better.
Has to be. Has to be better. So now, by the end of this year, you're going to welcome this new president, and then you'll be back to be a pure artist. And so, what will be your plans in the future?
Well, there are exhibitions coming. I think I'll be returning to China in January. And, but then after that, there's an exhibition in New York next year, in I think it's May, and always more plans.
Is it more like a confident, okay, this is finally what I want, this is to be a pure artist?
Well, it wasn't like that. Don't get the impression I was in prison for the last 8 years.
It's always nice to be calling the Queen, every year. Yeah.
Well, there are some responsibilities I won't have, and there were very serious responsibilities, of course. I mean, we employ 360, 370 people at the Academy, and as I said, I'm always at the limit of my knowledge and my abilities with it. But I love it, and it's an important thing. But in the end, I'm an artist. I'm a painter, and that's how I started. That's how I finish.
Okay, looking forward to more great works from you as an artist. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for your time. Well, probably in my eyes, I've only seen lines of blocks of colors, but actually painting is the way he communicates with the world. He's sharing with us how he sees this world. This is his first exhibition in China, and we do hope there will be more to come in the future as he's now back to be a full-time artist. We certainly look forward to that. This is Ji Xiaojun in Shanghai. See you again next time.